Hey everybody, good afternoon, good hot afternoon. I don't think it much matters where you are on the East Coast. It's hot. It's real hot. Even here in the mountains of North Carolina is it hot. Of course, it's hotter at the beach. I talked to my partners in crime today and they told me that it was even hotter there. So it is July. It's typically July and August are the hottest months of the year here in North Carolina, and it is what it is. But a lot of people are asking questions: when you live off grid, how do you keep cool? Well, I have air conditioning, and we're going to talk about that today, about air conditioning. And of course, I live in a tiny home, a small home, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Everything's organized and in its place. And one day soon, we're going to take a tour through my tiny home. And I'm going to show you how I have everything inside of it. But it's just like a regular home, except it's smaller. So I have 3/4-inch hardwood floors and beadboard walls and white pine tongue and groove ceilings. And it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place to live. I enjoy it. I love living in a tiny home. But when it gets this hot, 89, 90 degrees in the mountains, when it gets this hot, you need air conditioning. Now, I grew up without air conditioning in my home. So how I did that when I was younger, I have no clue because it was hot. But the way my father built the house and the way it was insulated, it wasn't too bad growing up with no air conditioning in North Carolina. But today I wanted air conditioning, and so I do use an air conditioner. I use a window unit. It's all I need for my small space, but I don't have enough solar capacity and battery capacity in order to operate that window unit. So I'm on generator for about 2 months out of the year at the most. So we're going to discuss that today, about how we stay cool, me and the kids. And we're going to talk about that financially as well. So I'll be right back. So the generator that I'm operating on is this Pulsar inverter generator, and it runs my window unit. It's just a standard window unit, and this is the generator that I'm using. It's extremely quiet. It is also, it runs, it's dual fuel. So it runs on gasoline or it runs on propane. So it's a dual fuel generator. So you can use either or to run it. This is the one that I use. I do recommend it. It's a wonderful generator. It is extremely easy to change the oil in it. Extremely easy. And I do keep my oil changed weekly. And this generator, like I said, it does run my window unit, and as you can see, I've had it plugged up. So I use this generator for about 2 months out of the year. When my partners in crime are here, we use a Generac system. So we have multiple generators up here, so there's always a backup. And but this one right here, it does all I need it to do. Its only purpose is to run the air conditioning, and it's not running right now because it's getting to be the evening, and I don't need it. My cabin is nice and cool inside. So this is the generator that I recommend. I don't get any financial compensation for telling you this. It's just I wanted you to know this is really a great little generator and very quiet. So it's what I use for about 2 months, month and a half out of the year. 2 months last year. I had to use it when I was up here for 2 weeks at a time before I moved up here full time. But it's an excellent generator, runs great, and I recommend that you change the oil in it at least once a week, depending on how much you're using it. And so I just wanted to show you that real quick. I'll be right back. So as I said, I'm running a window unit in my cabin, and it has felt really great today because it's been really hot and the humidity has been a little higher here today in the mountains. I'm hoping and praying that we get some rain. I so desperately need it on my garden. So we haven't had any where I'm located, none. We had a small sprinkle yesterday, and it wasn't enough to do anything much. So we're hoping that we get some storms tonight, hopefully nothing severe. But at any rate, I wanted to talk about, I had a lot of people asking me, well, if you're running off generator and you're running a window unit to stay cool, the only thing that's running on that generator is that window unit. I have power to my refrigerator, my freezer, my lighting, all of that it runs off my solar system. But the only thing that runs on generator this time of year is the window unit. That's it. And like I said, that's only for about 2 months out of the year. So on average, it costs me about $30 a week in fuel to run my generator. $30 a week to run my generator and to run my air conditioning. Where else can you live for that? You can't. You just can't. You can't live anywhere for that. So $30 a week is on average what I spend for fuel to run my generator. My generator typically runs from about 9 o'clock in the morning till about 7, 8 in the afternoon, sometimes a little later depending on how hot it is. But I run it and I give it periodic breaks when I need to. And like I said, the life to a generator is making sure that you change the oil and you keep the lubrication system inside of it healthy. So I change the oil weekly in the generator. So if you add up the oil, let's say $6, $7 for a quart of oil. Who would have ever thought the oil would be that high, motor oil? So $37 a week. Of course, it's my time. I change my own oil. I'm capable of doing that. So where can you live for that? You can't. And the reason I use a window unit, I was originally going to put in a mini split system, but I changed my mind, and the reason I did was because I wanted that. First of all, the mini split system is significantly higher in cost, which wasn't a problem. I just didn't need anything that big, and I didn't need the heat because I heat with wood stove. So I chose the window unit because I love fresh air. And in the fall, the winter, and the early spring, this is the place to be. You don't have to have air conditioning. I heat with my wood stove in the winter time, and mostly at night. Nighttime is about the only time I really use my wood stove because of the mineral wool insulation that I used in my cabin. Not only is that mineral wool in the walls, it's under the floor, which is at the foundation of the house, and it's also in the ceiling. So I have the metal roof, so my house is extremely energy efficient. And it holds heat really well, and it holds cool air really well. So just to give you another idea of how well insulated the cabin is with the mineral wool insulation, I turn my air conditioning off between 8 and 11 p.m. When I go to bed, I wake up the next morning, 6:30, 7-ish. My cabin's still cool inside, and my generator's not running. My air conditioner's not running. So I don't have to run it at nighttime. I only run it during the day. So I recommend that if you're looking into off-grid, to be completely off-grid, and you're looking into a tiny home application, that you do utilize the mineral wool insulation because it is very hardy for heat, and it's very hardy for cool air too. So my cabin holds that cool air from 8 to 11 p.m. is when I turn that generator off, and then I don't turn it back on till about 8 o'clock the next morning. So it's holding that cool air really well. So that's how I stay cool this time of year. And when fall comes and we start having 60-degree nights or below, I'll pull that window unit out, put it in storage, and utilize my windows again. I love fresh air. And give you a little tidbit, another tidbit about the mineral wool insulation is that in the fall, when you still have what they call Indian summer days and that sort of thing, when it's cool at night, the cabin gets so cool inside that it doesn't get warm until the late afternoon. And by that time, the sun's starting to go down. And so it holds its coolness to where I don't have to have any air conditioning. It's pretty neat. You have to do some research on your structure type and on the shape and the size of your rooms, but it can be done. So again, $120 a month, and let's factor in that oil. Let's just say $160, $170 a month at the most for 2 months out of the year. That's a pretty good deal. That's the only time that I pay really to live here is when I pay my small, minute property taxes and when I pay to run the generator for air conditioning. Food for thought. We'll be right back. Another thing that you need to consider this time of year is keeping your battery banks cool. So as you can see, in the wintertime, I have my battery banks well insulated, and this is mineral wool insulation. It is rock wool made by the Rock Soil Corporation. Mineral wool insulation. This is insulation that I also used in my cabin. So I do pull the insulation back in order to keep my batteries cool this time of year. They operate more efficiently, and because there is a built-in BMS, which is a system that shuts the batteries down if they get too hot, or it shuts the batteries down if they're getting too cold, or if the power consumption is not right. It has a system inside of it that will shut them down. So if you're using a lithium phosphate or a lithium ion battery in your battery banks, or you plan on going that route, I chose lithium phosphate because they're less flammable. They typically are more hardy than a lithium ion as far as flammability goes. I do recommend that you do keep them very warm in the wintertime when it gets cold, and keep them cooler in the summertime. Now, this is a small space. This is a powerhouse, and this is where everything is. My charge controllers, my inverters, everything's fused. But I do like to keep it cool in the summertime. Today my inverter fan was turning on and off, so it's doing its job. But make sure you keep your batteries cool. It makes them operate better. It helps your power consumption, and of course it keeps the BMS from shutting them down, thinking that they're overheating or whatnot. So that's something that you need to research, and that you do need to be aware of if in the event you plan on living off solar with battery banks. We are 100% off grid here at Blue Ridge Off Grid, and this runs everything I need it to run in my house. So there's 2 battery banks here, and like I said, it's that time of year. Got to keep them cool. Remember that. Keep your batteries as cool as possible. We'll be right back. So we're glad that you joined us today for this episode of Blue Ridge Off Grid. I hope I gave you guys a little tidbit of information that you can use. A lot of folks ask that question, how do you stay cool when it gets really hot? Because it does get hot up here. Right now, it's not too bad. We have a little breeze. It's around 6 p.m., 6:30ish in the evening, and we have a little breeze flowing, and it's cooling off. It cools off pretty quick up here, and our nights typically range from about 65 degrees to 70 degrees this time of year, sometimes a little higher than 70, but that's about as warm as it stays at nighttime. But at any rate, we were just discussing about how much it costs me on average to run my window unit for 2 months out of the year, and I just wanted to mention this as well. If you're going to do something, do it right. So take care of your equipment. Any equipment that you buy, if you already have a generator and you don't want to have to buy another one, just take care of your equipment. Make sure you do proper maintenance, and you'll get a great lifespan out of your generators and out of the products that you buy. Another food for thought is that even if I had to buy a generator every single year, where else can you live for that cheap? Let's say you spend, let's say $700 on a generator. Let's just say $1,000 and divide that by 12 plus 2 months out of the year of living off grid. That's less than $2,000 a year that I'm spending to live for energy, running off generator for air conditioning. You just can't do it anywhere else. It's not as hard as people think. A lot of people think that everybody who lives off grid doesn't have air conditioning and that there's no way they can do it. That's very far from the truth. Most people who live off grid do have air conditioning, and they have an application much like the one I have set up here, which is, like I said, is easy peasy, just a window unit. I don't keep that window unit in all year round because, first of all, I don't need it all year round. I only need it 2 months out of the year. And the second reason, because I love fresh air. There's lots of fresh air here. Lots. And I love the sounds of nature as well. I hope all of you are staying cool. Hadn't been too long since I was telling you I hope you were staying warm. I hope you're staying cool because the heat can be rough. I'd rather be cold than be extremely hot. So I hope you're all staying cool. I hope that these power bills don't knock a dent in your pocket. I'd hate to see you guys' power bills after this heat wave that's come through, or even the people in Texas. You know, we have to plan accordingly for situations like that. So those people in Texas and my friends in Texas, God bless you. I'd hate to see your power bill. And I know that some of my friends down there have had no power because of storms, and they still have no power. That's something else you gridders need to think about. What if a bad storm come through and knocked your power out for, let's say, 2 weeks at a time? Because they have to rerun the wires and reset the poles and everything. Let's just say a week. And you're having 90-degree heat with no air conditioning. You better have you a little backup plan just in case if you can't stand the heat. And that would be having a generator, one that you take care of and that you properly maintain, and having a window unit or one of those small portable air conditioners that they sell at Home Depot and Lowe's and any hardware store. Having one of those on hand just in case something happens weather-wise. I hear it thundering in the background. I'm hoping and praying I get some rain. But at any rate, thank you for joining us today. We're glad that you came here to visit with us, and hope you learned something new today. If you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comment section below. We would appreciate it if you would give us a thumbs up, and share our videos. Help get the word out about Blue Ridge Off Grid. And if you have, like I said, any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And Ashton's back. So thank you for joining us. And again, I hope you're all staying cool. And if you know someone, an elderly person or someone with an infant or something like that, and they're a little down on their luck, make sure you help them and you pay it forward in these difficult times. I went into the store a little earlier today, and there was someone in there, and quite frankly, they looked like they were about to pass out. Said they didn't have any air conditioning, and it was 80-some degrees in their house. So try to help others and pay it forward. We're all in this together, and prepare accordingly. Talk to you soon, and thank you for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye. you.